You know, for hundreds of millions of people all across Asia, these massive rivers, like the Mekong and the Brahmaputra, they're not just water, they're absolute lifelines. But the flow of these lifelines is changing, and the story behind it is just huge. It's about immense power, incredible engineering, and really the future of an entire continent.
And it all starts with voices like this one. A fisherman in Cambodia, literally watching his livelihood just dry up. This isn't just a weather report, It's a crisis that's unfolding for millions of people who rely on that river for pretty much everything. Their food, their jobs, their entire way of life.
And this picture just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, that's the Mekong River on a pretty normal July day back in 2017. It's full, it's lush, just like it should be during the monsoon. But on the right, that's the exact same spot on the exact same day just 2 years later in 2019. The river is gone. This wasn't some slow decline, it was a total catastrophe, and it left everyone asking one simple question. What on earth happened?
So let's talk about what this actually meant for the people on the ground. Because the reality was so much more devastating than just, low water levels.
The impact was immediate, and it was brutal. We're talking drought emergencies declared all over the region. In Cambodia's Tonle Sap Lake, which is a critical source of food, fish catches just plummeted by up to 90%. The Great Rice Bowls of Thailand and Vietnam, they started to empty out. And farmers, they fell into crippling debt because their crops just completely failed.
So here's the crucial thing to understand. This wasn't a normal drought. This wasn't just a lack of rain. And that's what led researchers to start looking upstream to try and find the real cause. And the answer they found? Well, it was not what you'd expect. This was the central mystery, right? The monsoon is supposed to be the wet season. The rain is supposed to make the river swell up. But in 2019, the rains were coming down and the river just kept shrinking. How is that even possible? And this is where it gets really wild. Satellite data uncovered this shocking paradox. Upstream, in the part of the Mekong that's inside China, the rainfall was actually normal, or even above average for most of 2019. But just downstream from there, the river was hitting its lowest levels in a century. So the water was there, it just wasn't making it downstream. Okay, so this chart from a river gauge right near the Chinese border, it basically solves the mystery. Take a look at that yellow line from 2012. That's what a natural monsoon pulse looks like. The river level goes up in May and hits its peak in August. Now look at the gray line for 2019. Instead of rising, the river level just tanks during that exact same period. That's not nature. That is a tap being turned off.
So what kind of force is powerful enough to just stop a river's natural flow during the monsoon? The answer lies in this massive system of infrastructure, built way up on the upper parts of the Mekong, all inside China.
11. China has built 11 mega dams on its section of the Mekong, which they call the Lancang River. And this cascade of dams gives them an absolutely unprecedented level of control over the river's flow. And the scale of these things is it's almost hard to wrap your head around. I mean, just look at the two biggest ones, Shawan and Noajidu. Together, they can generate over 10,000 megawatts of electricity and, this is the crucial part, hold back tens of billions of cubic meters of water. To try and put that into perspective, the total storage capacity of all 11 of these dams is over 47 billion cubic meters. That is enough water to fill the entire Chesapeake Bay in the United States. That's the sheer volume of water that's being managed and controlled before it even gets a chance to reach Southeast Asia. But here's the thing, the Mekong isn't the only river. Now, we're seeing the same strategy being applied to another one of Asia's most vital waterways, and it's opening up a whole new front in the region's water politics. So now, Beijing is planning what people are calling a super dam on the Brahmaputra River, or the Yarlung Tsangpo as it's known in Tibet. And its proposed location is incredibly strategic, right at this great bend where the river takes a sharp turn to flow into India. The scale of this new project is just staggering. It's designed to generate 60 gigawatts of power. To give you some context, that's nearly 3 times the output of the Three Gorges Dam, which is currently the largest power station on the entire planet. So for India, which is right downstream, this project raises a whole host of really serious fears. There's the big concern that water could be used as a political weapon in their ongoing border disputes. There's a physical risk, too.
the danger of sudden floods if water is released, or man-made droughts if it's held back. And of course, there's the ecological damage. You're talking about disrupting the flow of nutrient-rich sediment that farmers depend on and building this colossal structure in a fragile, seismically active part of the Himalayas.
So when you step back and look at the Mekong and the Brahmaputra together, you start to see a pretty clear pattern emerge. This is about way more than just generating electricity. It's about geopolitical influence.
There's actually a term for this, hydro-hegemony. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's a simple idea. It's when a country uses its geographic advantage, the fact that it's upstream, to control the water, and by doing that, exert power over its downstream neighbors who are completely dependent on that same water.
Now, if that term sounds a little academic, check out this quote. This really brings it down to earth. Researchers from the Stimson Center reported hearing this exact position from Chinese stakeholders. It frames water not as some shared regional resource, but as a national commodity, something to be used or sold as you see fit. So when you're faced with this new reality of controlled rivers, what are the downstream countries supposed to do? And what does the future even look like for the region's water security? Well, the responses are all over the place. India is now planning its own dams to try and create some kind of counterbalance. Cambodia, having seen the damage firsthand, has hit pause on all new dams on the main part of the Mekong. Diplomatically, you hear constant calls for more transparency and data sharing. And there are organizations like the Mekong River Commission, but here's the catch, they're really just a platform for talking. They have no actual power to enforce any agreements. And that right there gets us to the absolute heart of the problem. For all the talk, there is no comprehensive, legally binding treaty that governs how the water of the Mekong or the Brahmaputra should be shared between China and its neighbors. And without a treaty like that, any upstream country can pretty much do whatever it wants. And this all leads us to the ultimate question. The Tibetan Plateau is often called Asia's water tower. As that tower is increasingly engineered and controlled, the power to decide who gets water and who doesn't is getting more and more concentrated upstream. It makes you think that in the 21st century, the most critical resource might not be oil or data, but the water flowing down from these mountains. And the struggle for control over it, it has really just begun.